This part goes back a bit now, but one of the things I kind of wanted to start off and ask you is this. You spent 50 years playing some of these songs with the Moody Blues. So that's a band of brothers that obviously you're really well acquainted with. I kind of wondered what the experience was like working out arrangements for these songs with a new band at the time that you kind of first started doing solo shows with the 10,000 Light Years Ago album in 2015. So listening to this new live record kind of made me think of that, like wondering what it was like kind of arranging and rehearsing these songs with a new band.
It was amazing in a way, because the two guys, of course, Alan Hewitt and Billy Ashbrook on drums, they were with the Moody Blues anyway, so they knew what I wanted. And the great thing is I'd chosen, instead of using flute, to have a cello, because the cello has always resonated with me. In actual fact, in Search for Lost Chord, I played cello on that. I'm not a cellist, but I just love the sound of a cello, and I can make it work only on the notes I want, and I practice it. But I like the sound of a cello, and I thought, putting this new band together, instead of a flute playing, which I love, and he's real Moody Blues, obviously, because of Ray Thomas, you know, my mate Ray, but I didn't want to replace Ray with another flute, and I thought, this is my opportunity to use a cello. And the good thing about the cello, it can play all the flute parts, but it can also play the bottom end, which I really love. I love hearing the bow and having an electronic, having a microphone cello. You get all the zens, and I love that. It's on balance, it really works, and like nice in white satin, it really works. And nervous, it really works, this cello. And so it was great working all those parts out with the band. And with Duffy on guitar, Duffy is a beautiful guitarist, and to be honest, it knew most of Moody Blues work anyway. And it was a joy for listening to him playing like Legend of a Mind on acoustic guitar, and it was like, yeah, that's what I want. That's going to make the band happen. And as you said, I've been playing these songs for up to more than 50 years, and I didn't want to ever let that go, because these are bass parts and harmonies I've worked out over all the years, and very proud of playing them. And I want to just keep playing them to an audience, because I'm a listener as well, in a list of other artists, and I want to hear the music. I don't want to hear that music not played again. Why do I want to? You know, I want to hear all these songs I've liked over the years, and the new songs from artists who have grown up all the same time as me. There's not so many artists have time and going in the studio making new music, and it's fantastic. You know, there's very little out there for it, unfortunately, in today's medium, and you know, Spotify and all the downloads, they should control probably the 90% of the market. They're going to play their 10% of the music. You know, not what I want to hear. You've got to go searching nowadays, searching for different places to find the music you want to hear.
You talk about using cello instead of the flute, and like with stepping into Slide Zone, which opens up this new live record, Um, that's one that was always a really energetic song to begin with. So it's a great opener, obviously. But listening to that one, it feels like maybe you had a bit of fun with the arrangement on that one. So I kind of wondered, and you spoke to this a little bit with the cello versus the flute thing, but how much of a freedom did you kind of feel to take certain liberties with the material that you were, working up for this set?
I wanted to keep the same songs um, uh, with the same emotion as well. I recorded them in the day, but you have to remember, like Days of Future Past was recorded on 4-track. Inserting the lost chord, except for Ride My Seesaw, was on 4-track, and Threshold, I think, was on 16-track, and so the opportunity nowadays to explore how you can make the song with the same intention and hopefully the same love coming off stage to the audience, but make it more vibrant, because you have the opportunity now on stage with the sound systems being so good and the in-ear monitoring, so you can get your balances exactly right. It gives you an opportunity really to explore the song. Perhaps we would have done that if we'd had the opportunity of the equipment of today, I don't know, but it's just the emotion, and it's great to explore a little bit, push the boundaries out, but still maintain what the song is, and not do a karaoke version. So I think a lot of bands and a lot of artists, when sampling and all that came out, they started to make karaoke versions of their songs, and lost the essence what the song was about. And I really talked to the guys in the band, my band, and said, we got to get the essence exactly right, and hopefully we've done that.
I wanted to kind of go track by track through the songs on this new live record. I mentioned Stepping in a Slide Zone. That's one that comes off of the Moody's 1978 record Octave, which was the first one after a period of inactivity for the group. And it has this really cool energy that feels a little bit different for the Moody's, but at the same point, I kind of interpreted that energy as being one that was driven by the excitement of being back working together at the time. So as the guy who wrote that song, what are kind of your memories of how that one came together?
Well, I played to Mike Pinder first, and I said, Mike, I've just written this song, and I played in the riff and everything else, and we started from there. And I wanted energy to get the band back together in an energetic. I didn't want to. I thought, to be honest, at the time, I was not too sure whether it was the right time to make the album. And a lot of things happened making the album. One of them was we were recording in the record plant, and it burned down while we were recording. And we managed to rescue all their tapes and everything else. So, I think that spurred me on to say, come on, we got to get some energy behind this, everything's going wrong. And I broke my arm as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I actually recorded the bass part of most of the songs on Octave with a broken arm.
Oh man.
And I had my arm set so you could put the bass in my hand and play it like this. And so a lot of things went wrong, and I think it needed their energy to keep going, and that's what. And I wanted to reflect in it. Always stepping in a slide zone, Are we doing this at the right time? And that's where the song came about.
So Saved by the Music comes off of the 1975 Blue Jays record you did with Justin, and that record has been a fan favorite, and it seems like one that you two really enjoyed doing. And Saved by the Music is just such a great tune as well. Just a great song.
Thank you very much. And it's, you know, pertaining to me, you know, because the mid-70s, well, you know, where I was like in my mid-30s or something, and it was about me and what's happening in my life and what's changed in my life, what happened when I was 13, 14 and everything else. And for me, it was the music. And I realized the music had taken me on this incredible journey. And then we had 7 albums of the Moody Blues. Then Justin and I did the Blue Jays, and we're still firing on all 4 cylinders, you know. And it was an exciting time. And I think Saved by Music was telling everyone that, you know, when things may be going wrong for yourself, and there may be a change in direction in your life, whatever, if you got music, it helped me. Perhaps it'll help you as well.
How was writing for that record different, if at all, than the work that you and Justin had done previously writing for the Moody's?
I think it was more or less the same. The big difference was we'd got different musicians in the studio with us, and when we'd written the songs, it was how you got the different musicians to play it, because we got a pianist now playing on the record, which is totally unusual, because Mike really was a master of mellotron. Great pianist as well, by the way, but he was a master of the mellotron. And so we had someone who just played the piano, so that was different, and a different drummer. But we went back in, so I think in more safety reasons as well, we wanted to go back and reintroduce the Days of Future Past feel as well. And so we used Pete and I and the orchestra. So that was, you know, a very interesting time.
You said something early on when you were talking about the flute that I love. You referenced my man Ray, and I know that Ray was your neighbor. And on this record, Legend of a Mind is your tribute to Ray. And it was always a showcase for Ray Thomas in the live setting. What has always struck me as a fan is Ray had such a unique voice. It wasn't necessarily what you would call a lead singer voice, but there's a reason that worked, because it was very real and Ray was real.
Absolutely. You know, if you listen to some of the songs Ray sang on his own, you know, the voice was incredible. But what really worked for the Moody's, I think, in the vocal, he was a vocal harmonist. We had this great array. Mike was right down on the baritone, right down there. And Ray was a real Welsh tenor. So he had that middle thing totally taken care of. And Justin and I sort of alternated between high tenor and the soprano. So we had this unique blend.
Yeah.
And Ray's voice seemed to be, on rock and roll songs, Ray's voice was like the energy as well, driving the vocal harmonies. It was really great. But the best thing with Ray was when he's playing in the early days in the auditoriums, when we could on stage sometimes for 3 hours. Ray would go into a flute solo in Legend, and you could be sitting there listening to it 20 minutes. You know, Ray would go off on something, and because I've known Ray forever, I know suddenly you'd be thinking, oh, I've got to get back to the song somewhere. And he's doing all these triplets and everything else he's doing on the flute. And he had to work his way back, you know. We would watch and think, how is he gonna get back?
It really says a lot. Like if you are questioning in the moment, you're in the band, if you're questioning how's he going to get back from where he is now, that says a lot about the musical journey that the person is taking in that moment.
Absolutely. That was wonderful with Ray, because Ray didn't have chord structure. So it didn't matter to him. He would go off on a tangent. And he wrote his songs the same way, you know. And it was great for Justin and I to try and work out what the chord structures were. And for Mike, you know, he would work it out on the mellotron, the keyboards, you know. So it was always a great musical journey.
Well, you make a good point, because like when he comes out of that flute solo, like the musical peak that you all hit at that moment, kind of like really the peak of the song, like you hear it on this live record, but it's just like, that's something that had to feel incredible the first time you did that. And as you kind of reference, like, as you continued to play it live, it just became more and more of a moment. So that had to be a pretty cool moment in the set for you guys.
It was fantastic. You know, when you playing those days, like, you know, 20,000 people, and a flute solo is all you've got in the auditorium. That is pretty massive, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so you mentioned Mike Pinder. Sunset is your tribute to Mike. Do you have a good Mike memory you can share with us?
Always, you know, Mike Ray and I had a band called El Riot and the Rebels, and Mike came and played in that band for a while as well. So I knew Mike from those days. And Mike was just incredible at the mellotron and another instrument afterwards called the Chamberlin. Mm-hmm. And we did actually Seven Soldier was all Chamberlin. But I remember Mike would always want to build a new studio. Whenever we start recording, Mike said, "Oh, let's build something new." So we got something new. And in actual fact, for Seven Soldier, he built a whole studio in his garden, and it was fantastic, because I wrote a song called "Isn't Life Strange." And I wrote it on piano, and Mike said to me, "You know, I've got this 1890 American harmonium where you have to pedal." And he said, "I wonder if this will work." And he did. So Mike played "Isn't Life Strange" on the harmonium. And if anyone's got the original records of it, if you hear quietly, you can hear the
pumping.
You can hear the thumping going on.
Yeah.
We recorded that in Mike's studio. We recorded the vocals there on a Friday night, and we left for America on the Saturday with the tape of "Isn't Life Strange." We dropped it off in New York. And I think the record "Isn't Life Strange" was released 2 weeks later. And it's recorded in Mike's studio. It was great.
So you mentioned the Chamberlin. When Mike moved from the mellotron to the Chamberlin, was the Chamberlin more reliable and less prone to breakdowns than the mellotrons were?
Yeah, but we never traveled with a Chamberlin, so I have no idea what would happen. The Chamberlin had more instruments we could call on, you know. We used things like oboes, I think, on the Chamberlin, but we never traveled with the Chamberlin. It was always a mellotron.
So what do you really find like singing songs like Sunset and Legend of a Mind that were once sung by your bandmates? Like, what's it like for you getting inside those songs in that way? What does it bring out for you?
I try to get into their heads, uh, because I want them um, to enjoy what I've done on the song. I want them to know I've tried to get into their head how they sang it and what they were feeling when they recorded that song at the time. And I think it's important. I don't want to stray and put too much John Lodge into the song, because for me that's not what it is. It's a Mike song or it's a Ray song. You know, I want to get into them. Hopefully, I succeed.
So that song kicks off sort of a Days of Future Past suite of sorts. The next thing that comes up in the track listing of this live record is Late Lament, which you were able to get Graeme to voice. And Graeme Edge to me has always seemed like he would just be an unbelievable character to be in a band with. I'll tell you, John, there was a time where I called him for an interview and got his voicemail, and he had this long, hilarious voicemail message. You know, maybe I'm thinking about the state of the world, maybe this, maybe that. He's like, so leave a message, and so once I, you know, either sober up or come back, I'll call you back. And it's just like that to me was like the essence of Graeme. Like you always just, and when I've talked to him, like he's just a really interesting guy.
Graeme was wonderful, and he's been a great support of my solo career. He comes along to all the shows and everything, and that's why I said to him, Graeme, come on, you've got to record the poem from Days of Future Past for me, because I want to feature it on stage. I want your voice to be coming out of those speakers, you know, not anyone else's voice. And he did it for me, and he's done a great job, Graeme, on that. But Graeme is a fun character, and we were playing the Wembley Arena years ago, and we got there for the rehearsals, and Graeme came in a wheelchair with all bandaged up, his legs and arms, and a nurse pushing him. And he said, I've had an accident. And we all looked at him and said, well, see you in a minute. It was just his approach to everything. And nothing was wrong with him at all.
Oh my God.
It was just hey. And yeah, Graeme, you know, Graeme used to work in a band called Jerry Levine and the Ventures, and Ray Thomas and I, when we were sort of 15, 16, used to see Graeme. He had a gig on a Saturday afternoon in the best venue in Birmingham, called the West End Ballroom, I think it was. It's a Saturday afternoon, and yeah, I used to see Graeme playing drums. I thought, yeah, one day we're here. And you know, 4 years later, we're in the same band together. It was incredible.
Oh, that's cool. And so John Davison of Yes comes out to join you on Nights in White Satin, and he takes the lead vocals on that one. And it seems like you forged a good bond with John on the Royal Affair tour.
We did. It was fantastic. Yes asked me if I would go on stage and do their encore song, which is Imagine, John Lennon, and it's one of my favorite songs anyway. And I asked John if he'd join me on stage for Ride My Seesaw. And when John started singing with me, something happened between our two voices. And I thought, oh, that's fantastic, this. I really like this. And he's such a nice guy, and he's incredibly talented musician and songwriter, really talented. And so we got on really good, and we're doing some things at the moment here in Naples. And yeah, because they've got their new album Quest out,
Yeah.
And the first single is written by John. So he's really excited about that, and it's a fabulous album, you know, and the package is fantastic. I shouldn't be talking about yes. You know.
Hey, you know what? That shows you're still a music fan. That's good. That's a good thing.
Absolutely.
So when Days of Future Past comes out, there's the word that when label execs heard the record, they weren't thrilled because it wasn't the record that they had commissioned. I wondered what you remember about the journey you all took with that album from kind of that point of disappointment to the record becoming a big success. Like initially, did you feel deflated at all by the reaction from the label?
No, to be honest, the people who set it all up, I think, were the A&R people. We had a playback of the album first in the studio, and we invited all their girlfriends and mates and people we like to the playback. And we played it back in the dark. We took all the lights out and played it back in the studio. And when it finished, there was no real reaction from anybody, even us. And I remember thinking, what was that? I ran around that. Even now, I've got the shiver down me, then thinking about it. What was that? And we played it again, put the lights on, played it again, took the lights down and played it again. And after that, we knew then it didn't matter. We had no interest, to be honest, with the record company at all, I don't think. We knew what we'd done. We never thought about the commercial success. All we thought about in those days was, we've got to take this record and play it to our mates, all the other guys in all the other bands, and you know, and we were proud of that. You know, that album, and we were just lucky. There were two people there. Walt McGuire from New York and Hugh Mendel from the classical department in England, who knew what we were trying to do, and that was it. You know, we didn't think anything more about the record company.
So what do you think it is about Nights in White Satin that makes that song's popularity so timeless?
The lyric, one. Probably the other, the emotion in the space in the arrangement of the song. There's something about the space in this, for me, in that song, and like the emotion is floating through the spaces of that song, and that's what me, and things happen in the song where you obviously wouldn't expect the flute solo, and that takes it off in another space. And then the harmonies, when, you know, I love you, and the harmonies coming, it goes bigger and bigger and bigger, but it's space it's covering. It's not like sound, it's space in your head. And I think that's why everyone sings along with that part of the song.
So Gemini Dream is the one that's next up on the record, and that's one that has just always seemed to me like that's probably just fun to play.
I love playing it. I absolutely love playing it. After Octave, we did. Mike decided he didn't want to come on the road again, so we had to think what we could do, what we couldn't do, and we went on the road, and we went back into the studio, and the studio we'd built for the Moody Blues, we'd never recorded with the Moody's there. Justin and I recorded Blue Jays, and I recorded Natural Avenue there. But as a Moody Blues, we never ever recorded there at all. And suddenly we in the studio in London recording a new record, and I think what it is, what is it? We should write about what is it? And I thought, God, it's obvious. Long time no see. We're on the road again. And the original recording, I don't know whether there's anyone else before. I can't remember. It was the hook was touring the USA. The original hook to the song, touring the USA, and he grew from that to Gemini Dream, because we realized what the song was about. The song was about the who we are personally, not as musicians, then suddenly on stage in 20,000 seat arenas as somebody else. It's still the same person, but it's this Gemini dream which we can all have, really. Doesn't matter what you do, you can all have the dream.
So, and that one is from Long Distance Voyager, which is the band's maiden voyage on record with Patrick Moraz. Like, what was the experience of working with Patrick through his stint in the group?
Yeah, Patrick had a real interesting, he understand all of the modern technology. He was the first person I'd seen with an Apple computer, driving the different parts of it, and Oberheim. He had like 7 keyboards, and it was fantastic, because you could say to Patrick, I really like somebody driving here, not in an orchestral way, but in a synth, a synth way, still driving like an orchestra would, say, in 1812 Overture or something. But I wanted it in a synth way, and he seemed to know what I was asking him, and so like a song like Sitting at the Wheel, it really captured that whole thing I was trying to do, and energy from keyboards. It's instead of layering the song with a synth, it was part of the energy of the song.
I know one of the last times we talked, you mentioned being friendly with Rick Wakeman, and it sounds like there was a point where Patrick's keyboard setup would have been on the level, or at least in competition with Rick's, and that's not easy to do.
No, but Patrick has also the hand keyboard, where he could come out in front of the audience, and a song of mine called Rock and Roll Over You. He would come out there and play the keyboard. I've forgotten what it was called now, but the handheld,
like a guitar, basically.
Yeah. It was it's interesting, particularly on stage. It was brilliant.
So you talked about Isn't Life Strange, and had some great anecdotes there. I'm Just a Singer in a Rock and Roll Band is next on the live record, and it's one of those definitive Moody Blues staples. What are kind of the memories of that one that stick with you?
Well, 2 things really. I wrote it in my home in England, and I think we'd got really big at that time, and people were coming to us and saying we got the answer to the universe, and I remember coming over a concert from a tour of America, and at the time I didn't have gates on my home, and there's all these people sort of camping out on the front yard, and I said, "What are you doing?" And they said, we're here because you're going to fly the spaceship to save the world, you know. And I said, look, I understand why you're on about, but I actually don't like flying. That's a big problem for me. And they said, don't worry about it. When the time comes, you'll know. And I thought, jeepers, I've got to tell people I'm just like them. I'm an ordinary guy. I'm a musician writing songs. But at the same time as that, I thought, I wonder how I can put in a reference to what's happening in the world. And because it's from the Vietnam War time. And I don't know if you remember this, there was a picture of a little girl running down the street on fire and everything else. And so I wrote about that in the song as well. And trying to put in the words like everybody's coming at life from the wrong place somehow. And it's above my pay grade, really. And I think I'm just a singer of a rock and roll band, and that's all I am. I just want to make everybody happy playing, singing, and listening to the Moody Blues, and that's what it really was.
Ride My Seesaw is the song that for a long time was like the encore song that brings it all home for the Moody Blues, and it occupies that spot here as well. That's another one that comes from your pen. Can you kind of share your memories of how that one came together?
Ride My Seesaw is that thing where you've come out to your teenage years, and so you're in your early 20s, and you're trying to put your life in balance. And what you learned at school suddenly doesn't seem to add up anymore to what's actually out there in life. And that's where it was. It's like, you know, after that came things like yin and yang, which you're saying. It's up and down, left and right. And it was like, life is a seesaw, man. You know, it goes up and it's down. So don't try and stay up all the while. It won't work. You know, you're going to be brought down. But if you realize when you're coming down, it's probably going to go up again. So, you know, and things like people after that, not because of that, after people like, is your cup half full or half empty, you know? And try and remain with your cup half full. And you find your life is, well, I found it to be more positive all the while. And you're going to have setbacks. You're going to have things go wrong. We're all just living in this COVID world, you know, and something happened to me with these COVID years. But we've got to get over these things, you know, and live through it, and don't wallow when the seesaw is down. It'll take you back up and you'll see a new horizon. Always remember, when you go up, you're going to see a new horizon. And for me, that's my philosophy in life.
So here's the final couple things. First of all, with 2022, you're going to be returning to the road, which is good news. And it sounds like, so you're working on some new music with John Davison, is that correct?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Is that something that we will see sometime in 2022? Like, what's the forecast there? What can you kind of, I guess, you know, preview about that?
Well, I found during the COVID years, I've been writing a lot, and I released 2 songs in these crazy times, and the sun will shine. And I've written a few other things. But my attention right now is the new tour. And I'm looking forward to that. I hope nothing gets cancelled. The COVID law doesn't take over. And so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I've found a really new way of recording, which I'm loving. You know, just going back to the old days of the studio, when it was just the five of us and an engineer and producer, things got done really quickly. Towards the end of that, you know, so many people wandering in and out, and the creative part for me started to disappear being in the studio. I could be really creative in the studio years ago, not too much going on and too many distractions, too many iPhones, too many iPads, too many everything. And I found why all the people I want to record with have got their own studios, so they can record when they feel creative themselves. So when I write a song, I'll send it off to them. When you feel creative, create on this. And I'm really enjoying. It's like getting a Christmas present when Alan Hewitt sends me a file back and listen to what he's done on the new songs. I'll go, yeah, I love it. And when Billy Ashbrook plays the drums in it, or Jason or Duffy King, and send it all back to me, it's exciting. And it's, for me, it's like the old days. So I'm really back into writing and recording mode again.
With these shows next year, you know, you've mentioned like the stuff that you have played in the set, you know, whether it's, we talked about Saved by the Music, you mentioned Nervous, like these great, like deeper tracks in your catalog. But like you mentioned, like Rock and Roll Over You, like, you know, is there stuff like that that you would still like to play or you're looking at putting in the set list?
Yeah, I'm excited because I've got another couple of deep Moody Blues tracks that we're rehearsing up right now. So I'm excited. Yeah, there's trying to put the right combinations of songs together for a tour is always exciting, you know, to see if you could take the audience with you and let them down slowly, just like Ride My Seesaw, and bring them back up. And that's what I'm trying to do now with my new tour.
Well, so wrapping up, you've said in years past that you'd like to do further Moody Blues shows. Justin doesn't want to. I wondered, like, what sort of terms are the two of you on at this point? Like, is there at least a friendship there, even if the musical paths have gone in different directions?
Yeah, we still work out of the same office. We still got the same people working for us. So, you know, it's an email situation, really, because, you know, it's really important to maintain the relationship and the thread. You know, you don't break threads. I don't do that anyway. So it's important to remain the threads, you know, but that's what you could say, that's what he does not want to do, you know. But I'm a Moody Blue, always will be a Moody Blue, and I'm proud of the audience that's come with us all these years. And I just want to say thank you and play the music they love. And to be honest, on a selfish way, the music I love. What could be better?
So here's the final thing, and that just is, we ask everybody we talk to, did you ever get a chance to meet Prince? Do you have a good Prince story?
No, we recorded an album in Prince's studio.
Really? Which one?
Yeah, well, I was talking about it last night to someone, and it never was released. I think it may have been a live recording we made in Minneapolis and went in the studio for and this is like, yeah, just after 2000 and something, I can't remember.
Yeah.
And I thought about it. I wonder what happened to that album. And we spent weeks there in the studio, and we had a fantastic time. But I don't know what happened. It's terrible, really.
How did you guys wind up? How did you wind up there at Paisley Park? Was it just the fact that you guys had recorded the show in Minneapolis?
No, we wanted to record there. Prince's studio, and we wanted to record there, and we must have called up and said we'd like to come in the studio, and we did. And so I can't remember much about it. You know, those were heady rock and roll days, and so I can't remember. But what a great artist. And absolutely, I was listening to a country station yesterday, and there was a song of Prince which has just been released on re-recorded like a bluegrass version, and it just sounds incredible, you know.
Well, John, thank you so much for the time. It is always a pleasure speaking about music with you, and it's great to have this new live record. And you know, like I said, we're going to look forward to seeing you back out there in 2022. It's going to be fun.
I was just going to show you.
Awesome!
Emily's just given it to me.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. That's awesome. That's
first
great.
time I've seen it. Look, guys, you've got to look.
Oh, look at that. I know that there's going to be late January. There's going to be blue vinyl, so that's cool.
Yeah, and also look at this. I have to show you this. There's an insert I just found
for the folks that love liner notes.
Yeah, and
oh, that's cool.
There's Graeme, everybody.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so and John Davison there.
Yeah,
and the rest of my band, and footnotes is great piece. That's all Emily. Great job, fantastic. Wow. Nothing to do with me.
No, it's everything to do with you though, and it's cool that you still get excited about seeing that. You know, like
I'm excited every day about music.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling down, like I all do sometimes, pick up my guitar, my bass, best friend ever for me.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you always. Have a great rest of the day there. So, you know, we'll see you back out there on the road next year. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Thank you for the interview. Take care.